Hi Weekend Crafter! Welcome back to the Craft Time Studio. I'm Ange and I'm so excited to share with you today my projects using stamps. I'm going to teach you how I made bag tags, bookmarks, and plant markers. For materials, you will need polymer clay, alphabet stamps, ink pads. I actually used both a chalk ink pad and a pigment ink pad, and both worked pretty well. You will also need a tag stamp, a clear mini block, a rectangular corrugated cutter, and a small circular cutter, a clay blade, and a clay roller. We're starting out with bag tags. Bring out the polymer clay rolled out into the number 3 setting. Use the tag stamp and place it on the mini block. Stamp the block on the ink pad and then stamp this on the clay. Next, get the alphabet stamp and stamp the name on the tag. Get the rectangular corrugated cutter. Line up the corrugation at the bottom of the tag and press the cutter at an angle to cut the bottom. Then, use a tissue blade to cut out the remaining sides. Finally, use the circular cutter to punch a hole at the top of the tag. Use a tissue blade to lift up your tag without deforming it. Then smoothen out the edges. Finally, lay it down on the baking mat. For the next projects, we're going to make plant markers. Roll out your polymer clay in the number 3 setting again, and then neaten out the edges. Then, using the straight edge as a guide, stamp the letters to spell out your plant. Since I have a lot of potted basil plants, I decided to make basil markers. This is also the reason why I decided to use the green ink to emphasize that these are plant markers. I also got a little bit of green clay to make them into leaves. Then, I cut the end of the tag into a point so that I can use this to stab the marker into the soil once it's baked. And for the last project, let's make a bookmark. I'm a big book lover and this was the project I was most excited to make. Again, I roll out the clay into the number 3 setting. I just picked something that reminds me of one of my favorite books, and in this case, I chose to put Hufflepuff. It's basically the same procedure of stamping the letter on the pad and then on the clay. By the way, I made a test bake of these to check if the ink colors would rub off, but thankfully, it stayed on once it was baked. The only way that you could remove the ink was actually to use some alcohol on a cotton bud. Now, neaten the edges and put a hole on the top portion. And then I baked all of them following the instructions on the packaging. I made a couple of different tags, plant markers, and bookmarks, which is why the products shown here are a bit different from my sample. I also sanded all the pieces. I went back to my bookmark and finished it off with some thread and beads. I also went back to the bag tags and then I attached the metal findings. And that is it for today's tutorial. I actually tried a lot of different methods of putting color on the stamps. I used permanent markers and mica powder, but using the ink pads was actually the easiest way of putting color on the clay. I hope that you enjoyed making these very simple but quite useful crafts. If you haven't yet, do comment, like, and subscribe to the Craft Time Studio. I love answering your questions and helping you out in your polymer clay journey. Have a crafty weekend. Bye!